All right. We're live for the second time today in the Unspoken Truth. And I'm here with my good mate, Laura Viskovich. How you going, Laura?
Hey, I'm so excited to be here, Rob. How are you doing today?
Yeah, good. It's been a good start to the week. There's a lot been going on. I had a nice relaxing weekend, but it feels like miles away that actually happened because so much has been happening. But I'm excited to be here with you this afternoon and have a conversation and share that with the audience as well. Ladies and gentlemen, if this is your first time here at the Unspoken Truth, welcome. My name's Robert Bruss. I'm your host, and I'm joined by my co-host today, Laura Viskovich, on the northern beaches of Sydney and beautiful Collaroy. What's happening in your part of the world today?
I tell you what, Rob, it's beautiful. It's a little crisp and cold, but the sun is shining. This morning, there was about 15 minutes I spent on the beach with the coffee, good company, sun shining. I will say it is beautiful living near the beach. Where are you guys living?
Cronulla. I did exactly the same thing. I skipped the coffee this morning. I didn't have one on the beach because I'm up early and I had a couple of coffees. I just go for my morning walk, but it was beautiful. Just this time of the year, it's clear blue skies as far as the horizon. You can see like 20 miles that way, 20 miles that way, and just absolutely crystal clear and sunshine. It's just absolutely beautiful. I love it. It's so nice. We're so lucky. We're so fortunate.
We are.
Did you get into water?
No, absolutely not. It's May, Rob. Yeah, no water for Laura over here.
No cold water therapy for Laura just yet.
No, I'll stick to the showers, thanks.
I'm going to have to convince you of that at some point along the line. All right, let's get into today's show. We've got a lot to cover. We've got a lot of fun things that we're going to talk about. As I said, ladies and gentlemen, if this is your first time here at the Unspoken Truth, welcome. It's great to have you here. It's great to meet you. If you're joining us live, drop a comment there and let us know where you're tuning in from and who you are. We'd love to hear from you because this is a little bit interactive as well as a live broadcast. We talk about the things that are happening in mainstream media and happening in your world, and we like to debunk a lot of those things and just tell you the truth behind some things. And today we've got a topic that's near and dear to both Laura and my heart. We're talking about what does it really take to commit to your personal success and to go all in? Can you do it without qualifications? And are you getting in your own way? Are you self-sabotaging your own success? So Laura and I have had plenty of experience doing this in business over the years. I've worked with a lot of people personally, helping them in the startup space as well. And I've seen a lot of people self-sabotage their own ideals and their own ideology for the sake of, well, I don't know, a little bit of fear maybe. So this is an interesting conversation, and I'll give you the unspoken truth from both sides, from my personal side and also from the business perspective as well, working in that IT space, and Laura's going to share her knowledge as well. If this is your first time here, you can get us as a podcast as well. Wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, you can find the Unspoken Truth. About an hour after the stream, I'll pull the file down, upload it, send it into Spotify, and then it'll pull into all of the various podcasting apps that are out there. So just pop open your phone and have a look for the Unspoken Truth on your favorite podcasting app. We're also over on Twitter and Telegram. There's a whole bunch of R-rated content over on Telegram that can't be shared here on this platform because of the censorship rules. So we share it all over there on Telegram, which is a bit kind of freer than Twitter because you can still get shit canned over on Twitter as well. You got to be careful of that. And we're also on Rumble as a backup if anything ever happens to us here on YouTube. But that's pretty much it for our introduction here on the front end. Laura, have you got any opening remarks that you want to talk about, share with?
Well, when you said R-rated, I was kind of like, I'm not asking any questions there because I'm not in that Telegram group.
That ain't the R-rated that you're thinking of. I know your mind just went straight there instantaneously, yeah?
Oh, okay, what are we doing here? No, just kidding. No, I'm just excited to talk about this topic today because it's something that is near and dear to my heart. You know, when I started in business, and I won't get into my story just yet, but just real quick, when I started in business, you know, my close people that loved me, that I trust and everything, they were worried that I wanted to start a business and, you haven't gone to business school for 5 years and got your certifications. Don't quit your day job kind of thing. And the same kind of thing happened when I wanted to get into acting when I was sort of at school. I went to performing arts high school and I said to mum and dad, I want to become a professional actress. And they were like, oh, that's really hard, and they're saying it out of love. But at the end of the day, when you want to start a business and everyone's coming at you saying, no, you shouldn't. Well, I went ahead and I'm still in business coming into my 12th year. Anyways, but yeah, it's an interesting fact where it's usually the mindset of other people that stop people from going into business. So anyways, I guess we'll get into it in a little bit. But Rob, what's your experience?
Well, look, I think that you bang on there, and the way that I describe what you experience there is there's two types of people in the world. Well, really three types of people. You're going to have naysayers, you're going to have haters, and then you're going to have people that are cheering you on. So put the cheering you on ones away, right? So just because that's obvious and self-explanatory. But the naysayers are generally the people that are closest to you, and they're the ones that care about you, and they don't want to see you trip up or get tripped up. So what they'll do is they'll alert you to all of the pitfalls of going into business, even though they've never been in the business that you're about to explore. But sometimes it's a good idea to listen to naysayers because you can go, oh, well, that's a good idea. I never thought of that. Or you're getting a different perspective. So there's nothing wrong with getting the perspective of somebody else and listening to those naysayers. What you want to do is you want to use your critical thinking when you're listening to them. And by that, what I mean is you just want to take all of the emotion out of the process of listening to what it is that they're saying. So it's very easy to get defensive when you tell somebody you're going to start a business or you're going to begin your journey doing something. They'll immediately say, well, what, you can't do that or you shouldn't do that. But what they're really saying is that they can't do that and they shouldn't do that. But as you say, they're coming from a place of love. Naysayers are the worst kind of people because they're the ones that you care about, and it's very hard to not let their opinions drag you down a little bit. And that's when I say, if you're getting a naysayer coming at you, so somebody who cares about you and loves you and says those negative things to you, what you've got to do is you've got to use your critical thinking and take your emotions away from what it is that they're trying to say and listen to what they're saying, because they know you as well. So they know what it is that might trip you up. And if your emotions are in there and you're like getting a little bit kind of anxious or funny about it, it might be difficult. The other type of person, so I said there's three. So there's people cheering you on, there's naysayers like that, just watch out for them. The other one are haters. So once you begin your business and you go and put yourself out there, part of what you do when you're doing that is putting yourself out there in social media. And as soon as you become a public figure, that's not just an individual talking to their mates on Facebook or Instagram, but you're actually using social media as a tool for your business, you're going to get a lot of people that are hating on you. But one thing that you'll discover when you see haters, I see haters in my YouTube channel all the time. Whenever you click on their profiles and you see them, they don't have a YouTube profile themselves. So somebody might hate on this video or this content, they write a nasty comment, they troll you, or they say something bad. If you click on that individual and you go to their channel, they don't have any videos, they don't have anything. Haters, in my experience, don't produce anything. So it's very easy for you to be critical of somebody else. But if you're going to be critical about something, maybe offer an alternative view of it, maybe offer an alternative way of doing something. But haters will just hate on you just for the sake of it because it's easy and it takes 2 seconds on their phone to do that. They're anonymous and then they go away. So naysayers can get to the very heart of your problem. Haters can actually grind on you a little bit and kind of make you angry and frustrated. But what you got to do is just kind of ignore all of that stuff and just keep moving forward irrespective of what people say to you.
I love that you said that, Rob, because we actually touched on that in the last episode that we did together about, how to keep on going forward and finding success. And it's not stopping and sitting on the couch because someone said or did something to you that kind of made you question your whole life journey, right? Just keep on going and listen to them, take it on board, but just keep on going on your journey because it's your path. Do you mind if I share how I got into business? Is that okay, Rob?
Please do, because I've got a graphic here that supports it.
Please.
Do you need qualifications to start a business?
If you think you do, put it in the comments below. Or if you think you don't, we'd love to hear your comments. Put it in the chat below. But when I started in business, I've got a performing arts background, and then I got a job as a fairy because I thought, well, I don't want to get a 9 to 5. I don't want to be a secretary. I tried that for 6 months. It just wasn't me. I was like, go get your own coffee. But I was like, what can I do with my acting skills that I can do as a job? And so I got a job as a professional fairy in the weekend, and very quickly I started getting so many repeat business for this small business that a friend of mine said to me, well, you should have your own business. And I was like, no, listen to this. I said, no, I could never have my own business. I'm just a performer. I could never have my own business. I don't have a business degree. All these things I said to myself. And that person who had a law degree, who I trusted the value and the opinion of, and his knowledge, said to me, "Well, why not? Let's talk about that. What do you need in order to start a business?" And I was like, "Well, I need a costume. I need some equipment like a speaker and a headset microphone. I need a script because I need to make it my branding. I need to learn the tools. So I need to maybe do a few more face painting and balloon twisting skills, which I learned on YouTube. And then I need a website." And he's like, "Well, can you do your own website?" And I was like, "Well, no, but I could figure it out." So I went to
Probably.
Google. Yeah. I went to Google, went to YouTube, and I actually ended up buying, and this was like 12 years ago when the internet was very different. I bought like a template, attached it to hosting, and all this I just figured out. If I didn't know something, I Googled it, but I highly recommend people to pay others to do it. But I didn't have the funds because it
That's
was
the fastest way to do it, right? But if you don't have the money, you got to figure it out yourself.
yeah. Yeah, but I figured it out because I didn't have the funds. And so it cost me $300 at the time, 12 years ago, with my hosting, my template. I put in all the photos. It was a pretty dodgy website, but I launched it, and literally I was like, okay, I have everything I need. I'm ready to go. Within 2 weeks, I had nothing. Okay. And my mom's like, don't quit your day job. Like, I was working in the bars at the time in hospitality in the RSL club. And I was like, no, I can do it. I've got this. So I had a tiny little bit of money, like probably would have lasted a month's in rent, to be honest with you. And I was like, I got this. So I launched the website. I went on to every single free listing that was out there. And I literally like blasted them with very la la land my business. And within 2 weeks, nothing. But then all of a sudden, probably on the 15th day, I got a booking. And then I got another booking, and then I did a booking, and I got repeat business from the bookings that I was getting. And at the end of that first year, I think I started in February. At the end of that first year, I had to learn how to then hire, train, and have a team because I was getting way too much business into my business that I couldn't do it all myself. That's how I started in business. Literally, Google, YouTube, and someone gave me the belief that I could do it. And here I am. I'm still in business for myself today. I do not work for anyone else. Like, I don't have a traditional job. I've always maintained my own income. And it was all because someone believed in me, gave myself the belief. And then I went on and did the things. And now I'm inspiring women to be queens. And that's a whole nother topic. But you, Rob, I'd love to know how you got into business.
Well, it's very, very similar story to you. There was me and two of my mates, Paul and Shane, were in the army together, and we all decided to get out together at the same time. And everyone had enough, right? We were ready to go, we're ready to get out. What are we going to do? Maybe we can start a business. And I came across this thing in the New South Wales government where they said that anything that plugs into a PowerPoint in a workplace needs to be tested and tagged, and you don't need to be an electrician to do it. And it's now mandatory, and we're hiring a whole lot of people to come around and check that you've done that. If you haven't done that, it's going to be part of your insurance requirements. It's going to be a requirement in moving forward. So I was really lucky at the time that had actually happened, because all you needed to do was to do a 3-day TAFE course to figure that out, which we all went and did. And we figured all of that out. And then Paul and Shane got out of the army before me, and they were kind of just like languishing. They were there for about 3 months, not really anything happening. And I got out, and then I was like, oh my God, now what? We came back to Sydney. We rented a place. I didn't have an income. My missus didn't have an income. I got 2 small children. Shit, we're going to make this work. And the fundamental problem that we were facing was that there was just no sales happening. There was no leads and there was no sales. So immediately I said, let's just get rid of that and find somebody who could do that for us. And then we found somebody to begin all of that process for us. And they then scheduled the jobs for us as well. Okay, boys, you need to be here, 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 and here. And all of a sudden it just really accelerated. We had 30 staff within about 4 months. And I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. And I'm good at managing people and getting people to turn up and complete the job and working with customers. But in terms of managing cash flow and buying equipment and maintaining the momentum of the actual jobs that we had, that was Paul's responsibility in the office, and he worked closely with the telemarketing team that we'd hired. And we had no idea what we were doing. We had no formal qualifications. We didn't do anything. A little bit like yours is different because you needed you've got the acting ability. You can't just go and do children's stuff on the weekend, first of all, without having a working with kids check from the police. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is you've got to have the ability to be entertaining and skillful and fun. You need to be able to juggle and do all those skills, right? So you do need some qualifications and some levels of skill. But for Paul, Shane, and myself, we had no skills. no idea what we were doing. We just kind of flying on a wing and a prayer, and having a go is what we were actually doing. But if I fast forward to just in the last couple of years, really in the last maybe 18 months, so I kicked off another podcast with a good friend of mine named Jamie Small. And Jamie's an electrician, and I knew Jamie from BNI from a couple of years ago. And Jamie said to me, he goes, "Hey Rob, I want to do some public speaking. I want to get on a speaking circuit, a little bit like you." And COVID had just begun, and I said, "Bro, that ain't going nowhere. Put a pin in that." And I said to him, "Why don't we start a podcast?" Because we live near each other. And I said, "That's something that I could help you with, and that will help you to refine your skills, get your message there." And before you know it, we were number one for electricians in the podcasting space, and we still are today in Spotify and Apple. If you look for electricians, you'll see the Electricians Co-op. Jamie and I are there, and we've done, I don't know, 60 or 70 podcasts or something like that. But the vast majority of shows that we do are with small business owners. And so these people always tell their story of getting into business. So think about an electrician, just a regular, normal, standard job. These people go and finish their apprenticeship, they get their contractor's license, and now it's time for them to begin the process of starting a business. So, all right, boss, see you later. I'm out of here. Thanks for all your help with the apprenticeship, and thanks for getting me up on my feet. I'm out of here. And they typically leave employment, and then they're like going, "What now?" There's no inbound leads, right? So to your mum's point, don't quit your day job. Don't do that. So one of the things that we've discovered is that the businesses that are successful, that are really successful quickly when they gain traction, and it doesn't matter what business you're in, right? But this is the lesson from the Sparky world, is that if you're able to maintain your relationships when you step off into that contracting world, you'll be able to quickly go back and subcontract for those people while you're getting yourself on your feet. So a lot of people that Jamie's worked with over the years, and a lot of people that we've interviewed over the last couple of years, would say to you that I left the job that I was in, so I got all my tickets and I was ready to go, and then I subcontracted back to the people that I was just working for while I was getting on my feet. And then inevitably people go through the same process with entering small business that you went through. And again, it doesn't matter if you're going through being an electrician, a chippy, a plumber, or a fairy, a kid's entertainer. It doesn't matter, right? The same things happen. They have to figure out their back office. They have to figure out their accounting. They have to figure out their scheduling. They have to figure out their inventory. And there's a whole series of cash flow things that they have to suddenly start learning about that they didn't know about before. And the people that are really successful in small business are the ones that actually have mentors. So if there's someone there to help them, and if they've paid a coach, like a business coach, that can really help them to accelerate everything it is that they're doing, because those people are objective. You know, when you're beginning your small business and you've got, oh wow, I had a big win. I won a $15,000 contract. Big chunk of change comes in. About $6,000 or $7,000 of that would go out in overhead and expenses, and you're left with a nice chunk of change. Okay, cool. What do I need? Pay for everything you do. Then all of your cash flow is gone. And they just have no concept of running the books or running invoicing, or how you can extend your invoices out to 90 days. There's a whole series of things that you can do to ease the pain that you're feeling in your cash flow. But equally, there's better ways that you can work and be more efficient when you're at the actual job itself. In your case, as the kids entertainer, you don't turn up unless they've paid. In my small business over here in Susie's photography business, in Sue White Photography, we don't turn up unless we've been paid. Because if you turn up and then you're chasing invoices, that's just an absolute disaster. And what you're paying for when they pay you is the date. You're locking, because I can't go to another job. I can't go to another kid's job. I can't go to another wedding. I can't do another job while I'm there. And after story after story after story, I hear the same things over and over again. I was lucky enough as well. I'll just close the loop here for you. I was lucky enough as well to be the host of the BX podcast. So BX is a networking group here in Sydney as well. They're all around Australia. And during COVID, networking went away, of course. And what they did is they took it all online. And it was a really great way of keeping connected to small business owners and your friends that you've made in those networks. And BX is awesome. And I'd encourage people to have a look at the BX network. It's really great. It's very kind of fast paced. There's nothing, it's not hard networking like BNI or something like that. It's very kind of relaxed. You go for breakfast, you meet some people, you make really great friends out of it as well. And it's a great way to get your small business in front of a bunch of different people that have never seen your stuff before. But equally, if you're a bit lonely in business as well, that can help a lot as well. And I kind of didn't need to go networking or anything like that. And I went and just joined it and it was fun. And then I met Matt Alderton and he said to me, "Hey Rob, what about the podcast? Can we do something?" I said, "Well, what? I just host it for you, man."
Nice.
And in the process, I must have spoke to probably 30 small businesses. And again, exactly the same journey as what you've been on. They'd start their business, they'd get going. People would tell them, no, they can't do it. They'd do it anyway. Yeah. They'd go along, they'd find employees, they'd work it out. The reality is you don't need qualifications to start a business. What you need is a little bit of grit and determination.
I agree, Rob. And just quickly, April Branch from the US of A. Love you, girl. She's a stylist. I just wanted to give you a shout out before. I don't know how long you're going to be here for. I'll have a look into it. That's so cool, April. So basically what Rob just said, I just want to echo that for a second and then put something else on. In business, you just got to dive in, do something you love. If it's your first thing, maybe you don't have a degree like I did, or maybe you do. Great for you too. Either flip of the coin, it's all good. But you just really need to have that drive, that passion for what it is that you're doing, that lights you up every day, that makes you jump out of bed and get excited. And also the ability to problem solve as well is huge because most people who usually work, I'm not saying everyone, but usually 9 to 5 people, if something bad happens, it bumps them out of the loop. But in business, when you're an entrepreneur or business owner, the ability to problem solve, see a problem, go, great, we have a problem. Now let's fix it because now we're going to be better. So there's a guy called Scotty Schindler here in Australia, and I interviewed him on a podcast, Inspire Greatness Within podcast, maybe a month ago. And he talks about business systems, but he had a huge cash flow problem in his business, but it was actually a gift because he was able to get over the hurdle. And then going forward, it was better for all of his employees. So problem solving is a huge one when you're in business. But yeah, absolutely. You don't need qualifications. You just need the drive in order to find, if you have a question, find the answers, problem solving.
There's so many great ways that you can find mentorship, particularly, when you're starting out in small business and you're just trying to cross that initial Rubicon. It can be very hard to get going. Like you said, you set up your website, you got all your stuff, but then you got to wait a couple of weeks, nothing really happened. If you had to wait a couple of months, you might have lost interest in it and thought, oh my God, this is not going to work. But there's so many different ways that you can get mentorship. So I've just been listening to this audio book here called The Art of Clear Thinking, and it's by a fellow named Hazard Lee. And Hazard is a fighter pilot in the US Air Force, and I love all that military stuff because that's kind of my background. But it's really interesting. He was part of the cadre that was responsible for bringing the F-35 online. So it went from an experimental testbed aircraft to being operationally ready. So he was part of the team that trained the first Air Force pilots on a brand new fighter jet. And what they had to do is they had this opportunity. So this is the most expensive program in history, $1.5 trillion they've spent in development of this thing. And it's going to go for another 50 years, right? So it's there for a long time. So how can they maximize what it is that they get out of their people? And there's so many lessons to be learned in that book for you as an individual, as an entrepreneur, but also how you can share that with the team that you are potentially going to build. So even if you don't have a team now, the team that you will build might be the most incredible team that ever existed. For whether they're fairies, whether they're electricians, whether they're plumbers, it doesn't matter what sort of people they are or what product or service that you have. If you've got the right systems in place and you've got the right mentorship around you and you've got the right level of knowledge and you're able to stand back from yourself and stand outside of yourself and to look from a 50,000 foot view a couple of times a day to see where you are, to keep your emotions in check. And to your point, Laura, one of the things he talks about in that book that I really liked, he talks about mistakes and how when a pilot puts their helmet on and they strap themselves to the jet, their IQ goes down by about 25 points. Because all of a sudden you've got hands and feet in controls, and that takes brain power and cognitive ability away from your ability to think. And the F-35 is such an advanced machine, you're not really flying it. You can fly it like a fighter jet if you want, but you're more managing the systems than you are. So if you're used to managing systems in a calm, easy environment, in a classroom environment, the minute that you get inside of that jet and something, just a tiny thing goes wrong when you're flying the airplane, all of the other systems then suffer. And he goes through a series of things that you can do for yourself to stop it snowballing and people like falling away completely. He gives a really good example because it's a single seat fighter. So when you're training, they're trained in the simulator first, and then the instructor goes out with them and they go as the wingman out to the range. And as he was coming back from the range, they had to dial in the frequency for the airport as they're coming closer, and his wingman, the student, dialed in the wrong frequency, so his radio went silent for ages. And up until that point, everything was going beautifully. He'd done really well, there was no mistakes, everything was going as well as it could be. But something as simple as dialing in the frequency. So just think of your radio in your car. If you change the frequency in your car to 104.1 or 104.9, it takes you like 2 seconds. He dialed in the wrong frequency, and then he thought his radio wasn't working, and then he was stressed, and then 30 seconds later he came up on the right frequency, and the tone of his voice was up. And then so as they're getting closer to the airport, there's a series of checks you got to go through. There's your checklist, there's the radio calls, the approach, and he makes a series of about 5 or 6 mistakes in a row. And that all happens because he made a mistake with the radio, and his cognitive ability kind of fell away, and one little thing over here just snowballed into this massive thing over there, and you're almost going to get scrubbed from that flight and have to do it again because you made that one tiny little mistake with the radio. Business is exactly the same. Yeah. So many things go wrong. So many things happen, and so many things go right all at the same time. It's so important that entrepreneurs get their emotions under control, and that you're reading books or you're talking to people that know about how the psychology of this stuff works. I don't know about you, but I've had a bunch of things crash and burn badly. Has that happened for you?
Oh, 100%. I mean, but it's a great thing. And, so I love that story. And April's going, wow, 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 in the comments below. That was such a powerful story. But what I wanted to share with you real quick is something that I heard about old economy and new economy that kind of goes in with what we're talking about with business. Can you start your own business? Mm-hmm. So I heard this public speaker talk about pre-COVID, we were in the old economy. Well, we were kind of coming out of it, but let's just say we'll just have COVID as the landmark. Pre-COVID, we were all in the old economy where big corporations like taxi companies, for example, Rob, a taxi company would say, I want to start my own taxi company. So now I need $1 billion to invest in taxis. I want to flood the market with taxis all over Australia. That's just an example. And then we're going to launch our taxi company. And so what do you need? You need investors, you need all this equity, you need all the stuff in order to launch your business. Now, new economy. Have you heard of Uber, Rob? So that's kind of a very clear example of old economy. Like you have to invest time, sweat equity, money invested in a business for you to able to launch your business. But now, what is Uber? It's an app. They don't actually own any cars. It's other people using their own cars, and they dial into an app, and they actually launched it overnight. It was people saying, hey, have you heard of Uber? And everyone's downloading it, and now it's worldwide. So it didn't take them a lot of money. It didn't take them a lot of time. It just took a brilliant idea and a plan and an execution. And so that is a new economy. Now we see like hairdressers, for example, they don't have to stand in a shop anymore and spend all that time in doing hair in a shop. They literally have something skillful right here. They know how to do hair. They know how to do stylist, or a makeup artist, for example, or April is a stylist. She's got information. So now we're living in the information age where if you've got a skill, you can teach people in your house, in your living room. You can build your own community and teach people. You can sell courses. Rob is a great community builder. We work together. We've built the Inspire Greatness Within community. For me, I inspire people to live out their perfect dream because I know all about mindset, because why I started business 12 years ago and here we are today. So for example, a hairdresser does not have to stand in a hair salon all day, every day. They've got a skill. They can teach you at home how to do your hair. how to do styles, how to care for it, and how to do all the things. When you have knowledge now, people want to know knowledge, and so they'll pay for it. And so, how about you now sell a course or you start a community where you're giving value to the people? And now, all of a sudden, you have a life back. You don't have to stand 9 to 5 in a shop front like brick and mortar. Old economy, old time, put your money, put your time into a store. Now you can go online and share your expertise, whatever that is, because people want to have value. They want to have information. And now you can package it up and sell it. April, right here, is a stylist. She can now build a community and share people how to dress for success. She can sell to corporates. Hey, you want to have a killer wardrobe? This is how you do it. Build an online community and sell your course. Boom. Now you don't have to work in a 9 to 5. Over to you, Rob. What do you think?
Yeah, it's much easier to monetize your knowledge than people realize. What you need to do is to surround yourself with some people that have done that before. We can help with that if people want help with that, for sure. But I want to give you some real world examples of 2 businesses and 2 people that approached me in the last maybe 4. One was in the last couple of days, really in the last week, I suppose. And the other one approached me a couple of months ago about this particular idea. So the first one was he wanted to. So a mate of mine, I've known him for probably about 10 years. He came to me and said, hey, he drives Uber. He must pull about $2,000 a week out of Uber, does pretty well, has a lot of time to sit around and think, doing what he's doing, right? Because it's a bit of a mindless job. But he divides his time really well. And the way that he structures his day, he drives Uber in the morning and in the evening, and in the middle of the day he does nothing. And then he spends all this time working on businesses and doing other stuff as well. So it's a good example of not quitting your day job until something really takes off and gets going. And he said to me, one of the things that's missing in Sydney is motorcycle couriers. And he said, so imagine all of the food delivery bikes. So Deliveroo's left Australia now, but there's like hundreds and hundreds of people every single day riding around on motorbikes delivering food. And he said, why don't we create a motorcycle courier company? You were just at my place. I live over in Cogra, and then you go back out to Bankstown and you forgot your phone. Why can't I get a motorcycle courier to come and pick that up and bring it to you like that? And I said to him, well, the answer is I would just get an Uber to do that. And he said, yeah, because there's a percentage of my day that I'm actually a courier, not an Uber driver, where I turn up to a shop and someone says, here you go, mate, you the Uber driver. Yeah, there you go. What, have you got the address? That's the address. Okay, cool. And then he rocks up and he delivers it, right? Because that's just how people use it. But he was saying to me, here's a way to do it with motorcycles. Here's how you would do it. I know a lot about motorbikes, right? And so does he, because we've ridden bikes forever. But I don't know anything about running a courier company. And I don't know anything about becoming the Uber of motorcycle courier companies. So there's all of these barriers that suddenly come up in front of me. And, when I sit down and I write down all the pros and cons, there's a lot of pros, but there's a hell of a lot of cons that I can't seem to overcome. And there's all of these legal challenges like contracts. When you think about Fairy La La Land, what's the worst possible thing that can happen for you?
Well, a child falling over, but that's covered by public liability. An entertainer not showing up, but then you have a contract around that, so you're good,
So it's not too bad, right? So it's very similar to my photography business as well. The worst thing that happens is the client cancels on the day. It doesn't matter, I keep their money. Well, I can refund half of it if I feel like it, but the contract says no, so bad luck. There's a series of things that you can do, but nothing really bad can go wrong in a photography business. The worst thing that I'm ever worried about is if photographers walking backwards taking photos, they fall over and hit the head. But again, the public liability policy that we have covers them, looks after them, and the policy insurance of that happens on the premises wherever that happened. Even if it happened in a public space, that'd be okay. Anyway, the worst thing that could possibly happen in a motorcycle courier company is someone could be killed in a motorcycle accident. And the chances of somebody being killed are very high. And then I'm sitting there trying to negate all of this risk and trying to figure out all of these things. And then I'm asking myself, if I wanted to get involved in something like this, it seems like a really good opportunity. I can see the business model. I can see where it would make money. I can see why it would work, how it would work. But do I need the headache? And am I prepared to take some risk? In Hazard Lee's book, The Art of Clear Thinking, he talks about risk and how to manage risk. And he talks about how fighter pilots have to make thousands of decisions at a time on every flight that they go on, even though the flight only goes for an hour. There's like these thousands and thousands of decisions that are happening. And you've got to look at the risk-reward ratio, and you have to figure out for yourself, is the is the squeeze worth the juice? And is it worth getting involved in something like that? Ultimately, I went back and forth with him for about 4 weeks. What about this? What about that? How would we cover this? How would we cover that? How would we do this? How would we do that? And really, if you're going to go and establish something like that, you need about $250,000. And the vast majority of that is actually for lawyers to write contracts and for your insurance policy to cover off on people that get hurt. And the reason I know that is because I saw a whole bunch of Deliveroo guys riding around on electric push bikes, not on motorbikes. So they're underage or they don't have a motorcycle license or a car license. So they're younger kids, right? So 16, 17 sort of thing. They don't quite have their Ps yet. And they're getting clobbered by cars in the traffic. And who's covering them? Because they're contractors, right? They're working off an ABN, and then they get clobbered by a car. He's got a busted leg. He can't go to school, can't play sport, wrecked his life, whatever. Then all of a sudden, your company's on the hook for all of that. And I'm like, oh man, the headache of all this bullshit. It's just easier to sit here with my microphone and talk, honestly, like the headaches of it. So that was that idea. That's that real world example. This happens to me all the time, right? So just because of my background in IT. So I had another fella come to me and goes, I got the best idea ever for an app. And I'm like, oh my God, I've heard it all before. And in 2007, when the iPhone came out, I started a company building apps. So I've heard every app idea there is, all of them. I've heard all of them. And I've built dozens and dozens of apps for people in the process as well, right? Some worked, some flopped. Most of them didn't do very much. They're pretty shit. They're good ideas that it's pretty hard to execute that and get somebody to buy into it. Anyway, he's got this.
To stop you right there. I have to say this. Okay, true point. Might not work, but is that person who's giving you the idea truly passionate about it? Because here's where I place my opportunity and my money. If I see an opportunity, if I see someone very passionate about an app idea and they're like, then I would place my money on that person is going to find super success because the energy is there. See what I mean? Like, but if someone goes, hey, it's a good idea, I think this might work, blah, 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 then it might not work because their heart's not truly in it. What do you think?
My experience with that is that most people that have a really good app idea can only see the dollar signs.
Yes.
And they fail to understand power laws.
Yes.
So power laws are something so really super simple explanation. And this is how I can kind of distill and disseminate whether or not something is going to work or not. If I gave you 1 cent and told you it was going to double every day for 30 days, what would you know? You'd know that the law of compound interest shows that there's $10 million or something at the end of it, right? Yeah. But it's not until about day 20. So if I told you that, here, I'm going to give you 1 cent and it doubles every day for 20 days, you only have like $400 or something, right? It's not much. But it's not until you hit that point where there's what they call it's called a knee in the graph. And then the graph just goes, when it goes exponential, right? Like a hockey stick. So unless your idea can be that, where you're going along, where eventually it hits day 20 and then it goes zoompa like that and accelerates because it catches on because of the networking effect, because of compound interest or some other power law that's actually working in your favor, it won't work. The app won't work because there's more than 9.2 million apps in the App Store. So that's the very first barrier that you've got. So now, how are you going to create an element of virality inside of your offer? What is it that you're going to do to make that actually work for yourself? And there's a lot of examples out there around that. One good example is of Dropbox. So Dropbox was spending $10,000 a month back in the day when they first started to get people in ads to get new customers. And so they were acquiring customers, but people were not using the service. So this was the problem, right? And what would happen is there was no way for them to engineer the growth hack into what it was that they were doing at the start. Because we said, look, what we've got all of this storage space. We buy it wholesale, we can sell it retail, and we'll market it on the front end, and we sit in the middle and take the difference. Very simple. So the initial thing that they did was what normal businesses would do, like a fairy La La Land type business. I'd go to Google AdWords and I'd spend $10,000 a month on ads. In fact, if I stand corrected, I think it was $10,000 a week they were spending. So in terms of ad spend, it seems like a lot, and it is for you and me as a small business, but in a bigger company, it's not. And what they found was they were just not getting $10,000 worth of business back. They couldn't make the numbers work inside of the Google Ads campaign. Even though the cost of the clicks in Google at the time was actually relatively inexpensive, you had to get a lot of people to click to get them to actually go, oh yeah, I want to get like one extra, 500 megabytes of extra storage. So the story of the growth hack of Dropbox was they went away and they were like, how can we fix this? We're going to go broke. We're going to run out of the VC that's been given to us to make this happen. And one of the engineers said, why don't we give away some storage space? So so we pay money to acquire one customer. What if we could acquire 2 customers in the process of doing that? Would that help our circumstance? And they said, yes, that would solve it, because then makes numbers work, right? So what the engineers did is that they said, if you sign up today and you upload one file there, what we'll do is we'll give you a link, and if your mate signs up, you get an extra X amount of storage in megs. So back in the day, it was in megabytes, not in gigabytes like we measure it in today, right? It was small. So I buy a 500 megabyte account where I need to upload my files into Dropbox. I upload one file, then I get the link and I share it with Laura, and Laura goes, oh, that's pretty cool. That's cool. I get a free trial. I upload a file, and then I get a link, and on it goes. And they went from 0 to superhero in a couple of weeks. And what they did is they engineered the growth hack into their business. So I would encourage people, if they're thinking about starting a small business, what you need to do is to go and study growth hacks. And there's plenty of books out there, and there's hundreds of stories out there. There's hundreds of YouTubers that talk about these growth hacks that show you how you can engineer the growth hack into your product or service. And the growth hack in your product or service, Laura, could be as simple as when you're going to a kid's party, there's other parents there. So how can you efficiently secure their emails to market to them to go and get the party for their kids as well, right? So that's that element of virality. They're the referrals that you're continuously getting. And there's a series of things that you can do that you engineer either into your technology or into your sales process to help you with that growth hack. So coming back to my mate with his world-beating app, and he's, all he can see is the dollars in his eyes. I said to him, at what point does the power law take over and we hit the J part of the hockey stick on the curve? And he's like, well, what are you talking about? I said, well, where's the tipping point? Because what I can't see is, say I pay $1 for an acquisition of a customer to download the app. When is it that I get my $1 back from that customer? So normally in products and services, if you're going to advertise a kid's party for the weekend, you might pay $30 to acquire that customer. Your clicks might cost you $5 or $6 each. You get 10 clicks. So say it costs you $50 to acquire a customer, but you charge $400 for that particular job for that afternoon. So you turn $50 into $400. So you made a $350 profit, take away 30% for your overhead. There's your margin. Done deal. Simple equation. For an app, and anybody that's out there listening to this that's got an idea for an app, if it costs you $1 to download, to get someone to download it to their phone, then what does it cost to get them to actually use the app? Because there's more than 80% of apps that are downloaded to a phone that are simply not used, and they're deleted within 30 days. But then how are you going to get your $1 back? How long is that going to take? So, you don't need formal qualifications to go into a business, but you do need to go into the business with clear eyes, knowing what you're getting yourself involved in.
Mm-hmm. Couldn't agree more. Oh, you're full of great information and great ideas and stories and stuff. And April's just in the comments just going, wow, wow, wow. If you had a wow moment, as you heard Rob, please do put it in the comments below. We'd love to hear about it. April said, just learned so much new stuff. Wow, powerful, awesome.
Awesome. I'm glad somebody's getting something out of all this knowledge in my brain box. I want to move to the next part of this, if I could, Laura. And who's telling you no? Who is it? Is it the naysayers? Is it the haters? Is it your family? Is it your partner? Who's telling you no, that you can't be doing something in business? My view is that if you want something bad enough in your life, you'll figure out a way to go and get it. Yes. And you figure out a way to maneuver and manipulate yourself and bend yourself into a pretzel if you have to get it what it is that you want. And I believe that you got to keep going. And you've got to keep pushing forward until people are like shouting no, I don't want that. No, get away. I don't want that. And I don't mean to be pushy in sales or something like that. What I'm trying to do is to you really got to get people to tell you no, that they don't want whatever it is that you've got. People are too soft on the front end in small business. When somebody goes, nah, I'm good, I don't want that. And they go, okay, so all right, no worries, see you, bye. Like, really? Was it that easy to get rid of you? Come on, there must be better objection handling skills that you've got there. And you've really got to refine your sales skills to a really razor sharp point to be able to navigate these things in small business. And I don't think a lot of people are properly prepared or equipped to actually deal with that aspect of it. What do you think, Laura?
Yeah, I think that's a part of knowing your process as well. I mean, if you're super passionate about what you do, in time, you'll know your process. Like, for example, when I get an inquiry on the phone or an email, like I don't let them lead. I literally ask them questions. So they'll be like, what's your price? What's this? And I don't answer their question. I literally know my process. So I'm like, okay, hang on one sec. Like if we're talking about kids party entertainment, just for the sake of this example, I'll say, okay, great. When is your party? How many kids are attending? Where is what suburb is it in? Is it a boy or girl? Like, I ask all the questions, and I ask every single client the same thing. I don't let the client lead. I let myself lead the conversation, and I know where it's going, because then I can say, okay, great. Now I know all the information. I can customize it for you. I've got 3 different options, X, Y, and Z, and then you're leading them down the funnel of making a choice and so forth. When I get an inquiry, 99% of the time I get a booking, to be honest with you. And that's like crazy good. That what we're talking about when people call in. But like, if you're talking about cold leads calling out, I mean, that's a whole nother discussion. But I think if you know your process and you know where you're leading your customer, then yeah, it's easy, right?
Well, it's easy when you know your product and your service, right? So I think one of the things that entrepreneurs underestimate, and when people get started in small business, no one tells them how hard it is. Well, you hear, oh, it's hard, man, it's so hard. You hear that all the time. It's hard, it's difficult, but no one ever says what it is that's really hard. And nine times out of 10, it's the selling process. People have got great products and services, but they fail to understand for some reason that when they're in small business, they're the ones that actually have to sell it. And finding good salespeople is very, very, very difficult. So I would encourage people that are on their journey, on their entrepreneurial journey, to be a student of the selling process. So my go-to for that is a guy named Oren Klaff. He wrote a book called Pitch Anything, and recently he updated that book with a new one called Flip the Script. And the reason that he wrote Flip the Script and wrote a new book is because the way people buy has fundamentally changed. So just think about your buying behavior and now insert yourself into this conversation as the person with the products or services. Your buying behavior has changed so radically that you don't even realize. But if you look back 10 years ago, so if you look back to say 2008, when the iPhone first came out, life wasn't really that much different. Smartphones hadn't really taken off like they had. And the way that you bought, you probably went to the shop, you walked around, you might have looked online for some stuff, but you probably still bought stuff from retail outlets like you typically had done for your whole life previously. But nowadays, you might go to the store and you see a pair of shoes that you like, you take a photo of them, you look for the make and the model, and while you're standing in the store, you'll be Googling that, or you'll be looking on Amazon going, I'm not paying $400 for that. I can get it here for like $380. And for $20, I'll delay my gratification.
Yes. Rob, can I just say something on that? I
Okay.
was having this conversation just the other day with a friend who has this, he had one of his first businesses it's called Sneaker Source. And it was all set up around the underground world, in my opinion, because I'd never heard about this, but people who absolutely loved sneakers.
Yep.
And previously, there were people buying and collecting like unique sneakers. Like, this is brand new to me. If this is not new to you, let me know in the comments below. But I was like, really? So people collect, it makes sense, but I just never heard about it. So this whole business was revolving around people collecting. And so on Instagram, they would post photos of like unique and rare shoes and so forth. And then they got picked up by a local shoe shop, which I won't name names, but it's Australia wide. And they used to get given shoes because anyways, long story short, that industry or niche, if you will, is completely changed now. And the whole sneaker collector thing is not really a thing, because now people want to sell it, buy at a low cost and sell it and make a big profit.
Yeah, making a margin on it. Yeah.
So people don't collect now and hold them. They just want to make money off it. And so
They're flipping them.
Yeah, they're flipping it. And so the industry has kind of died down, which I was like, oh, that's a shame.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. You know, the way people buy has fundamentally changed the way people sell. So there's an example of an industry that used to exist but now no longer exists. You know, there's plenty of entrepreneurs out there that will say to you, you don't need any money to start any business. When I started my business, we used to flip lounges. Drive around the city to all the council cleanups, pick up all the busted couches, go and find all the busted couches, go and take them home, fix them up, use the upholstery. There's a really simple process that you can actually use to do that, and then go and put that couch back up on eBay for, you know, a $400 margin. Do that 10 times a week, you made $4,000 in a week. Sure, it's manual labor. Sure, it takes a lot of effort, but it can all be done if you really want to do that. But fundamentally, the problem that I see, just coming back to the sales side of things, is that the way people buy things and their buyer behavior has completely changed. But most people that get into small business, even in this day and age, in the 2020s, fail to recognize that. They fail to recognize that buyer behavior is very different. And, you know, I've had this conversation a lot in the Electricians Co-op podcast, where we talk about how do you acquire leads? What's the cost of acquisition? When you acquire the lead, are you taking payment off the client once the job is complete? Or do you give them an invoice? Are you acting as the client's bank? Are you taking a call out fee before you actually get there to make sure they're serious? You know, there's a series of things that small businesses and particularly service-based businesses can do to negate the risk, the downside risk of cash flow there for them as well. And some interesting conversations when people are new to it, they have no idea about any of this stuff. So it's a thing that can really bite you on the ass badly if you're not careful, because cash flow is the lifeblood of your business. And if you're unable to sell your products or services for whatever reason and acquire good margins on your products and services, it can be a real downer. And when things start to go wrong with cash flow in your business, it starts to pull down every other aspect of your business as well. And it's impossible for it not to pull your emotions down as you're going as well. So you're going to be really mindful of that, and you need to be super proactive in the sales process and understanding that, whether that's you at the sharp end of the spear selling your products and services in your business, or it's training your sales team, you need to have professionals in there doing that. And most people in small business don't understand that because they haven't been professional salespeople themselves. I've been a professional salesperson for a long time. In my own business, I've worked for other people and I've done that. You know, I've won some really big deals and I've crashed and burned on some really big deals as well. I've made a lot of mistakes, but I've had a lot of wins as well. And I've ridden the roller coaster of sales, and I understand what's good and what's bad. And I understand how to formulate a pitch and to be convincing and to make that work. And I think a lot of that sales skills I learned over a career of doing that as an entrepreneur has translated for me as a speaker. Because in order to be good at sales, you need to be a really super clear communicator, and you need to get your message across in as few words as possible. I can waffle on and ramble for a long time as well, but I can also be really clear when I'm doing that in the process. And that's an art that I've mastered, I think.
I am not laughing too much on that.
You know.
Yeah, but I will say, Rob, just real quick on the sales process, like similar argument when it comes to emails and stuff. Like pre-COVID, I used to always say, oh, emails are dead, emails are dead. And there was a period of time where I feel that emails were dead. But since COVID, I've started being really consistent with my emails now. And a combination with text messaging. So text messaging and email for both of my businesses. And I'm finding massive success in it. But I think the key is, with all business and all social media as well, consistency.
Yeah, absolutely. That's you're 100% right.
That old
I've had a lot of success with SMS campaigns in the past as well, and there's plenty of platforms out there that you can use to get a little bit of scale with that. Sometimes I help people do a lot of event-based stuff over the years, where I've got this speaker coming to Australia and I need to put 400 bums on seats here. All right, cool. Where's your budget? So they show you what the budget is. The tickets are $99 each or something like that. We can pay up to $20 per client. We're still making money when we do that. Okay, set up the advertising campaign. You sell the tickets, but then trying to get the people to turn up after they spent $100 was half the battle. So
Really?
you think that actually selling the tickets would be the hard thing, but trying to get them to show up was the hard thing. And then sometimes you would say, you can come to this event and we're going to give you $100 worth of something, like an actual physical gift. So it's the other way around, and no one would turn up. And you'd be like, oh my God, how do we, what do we do? Yeah, so there's so many things that like trip you up in small business that you don't realize and that you wouldn't anticipate. How would somebody spend $100 and then just go, whatever, like I couldn't be bothered going out there tonight?
I don't know, Rob. I've never encountered that. So you're telling me new information, but I understand it. Events is hard, but usually for my events that I've done for kids entertainment, they buy a ticket, they show up, but it is mums and kids, right? It's a different deal.
Yeah, that's a little bit different as well. And I'm coming to a kid's party and I'm doing that as well. I did a little bit with one of my mates that I work with over the years. He had an office in WeWork in Wynyard. So there's really nice, fancy co-working space there and that. Then he wanted to do like a Graham Norton type couch live. And you know, you've got a ready-made audience right there in WeWork. All you've got to do is time it correctly. So if you do it at, say, 3:30, 4 o'clock on a Friday afternoon and bring in some beers and bring in the right guests and promote it correctly, you'll have a lot of people turn up. And it worked really well for a couple of weeks there, but then trying to expand the footprint of that to other WeWorks where he wasn't known was like, no. I know this dude. I see this guy in his office every day. I say hello to him all the time around the coffee machine or whatever, right? So those co-working spaces are really good for networking and getting to know people and whatnot as well. But the minute that I took it outside of that ecosystem that he was in, it just fell flat. And then trying to sell tickets to it was an expensive exercise that didn't return anything. And then even if people did pay the money for it, getting them to turn up was like, oh my God, how do we get these people to turn up? And it's a sequence of text messages. It's like, hey, I'm going to remind you on Wednesday that this thing's coming up on Friday. Then I'll tell you on Thursday, then Thursday night, then Friday morning, then Friday lunch. And then I tell you that it's starting in 10 minutes and they still don't turn up. It's like, oh my God.
Still don't.
Yeah, so like a percentage of people that don't, you know, you go away and sell like 80, 100 tickets or something like that, and you only have 30 people turn up. You're like, well, I got your money. Do I really care? But it's not about that. The whole point is to get the audience in there and get the energy in the room, and there's more opportunity when there's more people in the room. So it's a funny, things happen that you just could never anticipate, and you've got to be flexible enough to shift and move with those things and sort those problems out on the fly.
Rob, it's because you didn't have me at your event. That's why.
That's what it was. Nobody wanted to see that other guy. If I was there speaking, they would have rocked up. They would have paid $200 a ticket. Come on.
I want to thank April so much. I love your comments. I've been liking it in the comments, and absolutely consistency matters. Yes, Laura, I'm just reading your comments. Thanks, April. You're awesome. Maybe we should do maybe you should come on the show one day.
Maybe April should come and hang out with us for a little while. That'd be fun as well. All right, let's close out the show here, Laura, with I think maybe the most important topic of all. Do you need to get out of your own way? One of the things that I've seen in the startup space as an IT guy, so for people that don't know, my background was helping people build websites and, you know, just typical IT stuff, right? So I help you with your advertising campaign. I help you build a website. I help you gain alignment with your audience, and mostly to do with branding and marketing as well. So I'm really good at those things. And I sustained a business for a long time doing that as well. I don't do that anymore. I do it kind of in a slightly different way, but I don't really charge people for that as a service that I offer anymore. And that's because I just got a bit burnt out doing it, and I prefer to talk on a microphone and podcast and YouTube more. It's a better way to make a living, I actually think. But I worked a lot in the startup space. So people would come to you and you think, man, that's crazy. Why would you work in the startup space? You're nuts, right? These people have got no money. These people have got a lot of money. And you just got to be careful how you charge them, right? Because you don't want to bleed them dry because you're knowing that they're getting going. So it's all about relationships and trust on the front end with startups. So you need to be gentle with them. You need to show them that, hey, this might not work, and you kind of navigate that pretty well. And I was good at that, right? I'm here to make money, but I'm not here to, you know, if I'm working with Coca-Cola, I'm charging a lot more than I'm working with Jono down the road with his app idea or whatever it might be, right? So you're just charging appropriately for the levels of service that you deliver, but also trying to help people out and do the right thing, because you never know where that leads or what sort of opportunity that creates. But I've seen a lot of people get disheartened really, really quickly. So they spend all of this time, effort, energy, and money building their ideas and spending time in development and creation and stock and inventory and warehousing and all of these stuffs. And the minute something goes wrong, they end up crying in the corner in the fetal position and just can't pull themselves out of this dark hole that they bury themselves in. And they inevitably, somebody that's going through that process will inevitably self-sabotage themselves. And it's really sad to see. And I just want people to know that if you go down this path as an entrepreneur and when you want to start a business, you want to do that, you can end up in a deep, dark hole, stuck in the corner in the fetal position, crying in your pillow. It can be really hard and nasty.
Yeah, I agree. We touched on this in our last podcast. I think you guys should definitely go listen to that as well, because I don't think we'll elaborate as much today. But as you're going on this business journey, you just have to adapt, like resiliency. So if something happens, you kind of bounce off the ground and stand back up again, learn from it, brush yourself off and move forward. As I said at the beginning of this podcast, when I started my business, I even told myself, someone gave me the idea, you should have your own business. You're amazing at this skill. And I said, no way. I don't have a business degree. I can never do that. I'm only a little old actress over here.
I'm staying in my lane.
Yeah. But if I had have listened to that voice and not listened to the belief someone else was giving me, I would have stopped right there and never started the business journey. I would never have been 12 years later, owning an Australian international pageant, training like this year we'll have 100 contestants coming through our door. They all want to become leaders. We're helping them find the resources in order for them to stand up, be leaders, do their non-for-profit work and get massive exposure. That's what we do now. I own that. I also own Fairy La La Land, and I'm now public speaking and building an online community to help other people inspire greatness within. I could have never done all these things over the last 12 years if I had have listened to my own mind and said, no, I could never start my own business. So resiliency. Don't listen to the naysaying in your own head, let alone other people, right? So you gotta control your own mind first as well as other people. So what I say is listen to really positive stuff like podcast, YouTube stuff, anyone who's kind of like got a positive vibe. Find I Am affirmations on YouTube. They're all over the place. If you don't know where to start, Abraham Hicks has some great positive vibes coming out of her channel. And her channel, yeah. She tunes in. That's why it's anyways, doesn't matter.
I saw the pun. That's all right.
Yeah. I was like, oh, hang on. But no, so be around positive, like-minded people. That will fuel your mind to set your mind straight as soon as you get out of bed in the morning. And so get your own mind straight. And then when the naysayers come from outside, don't listen to it, but listen to them, acknowledge what they have to say. Don't say, hey, you're wrong, go away, but just kind of take it on board, but don't let it stop you. Just go, okay, well, I liked that point, but I didn't like that point. So this is what I'm going to do, and then move forward. So
yeah, it's good advice, right? And you know, you're talking about it from a kind of a 50,000 foot level. I want to give some practical tips that people can actually use and implement in their life as well. And this is applicable. You don't have to have a business to actually look at these things, but it goes to the very heart of your decision-making process. And it goes to the heart of knowing yourself, right? Know thyself. That's the most important thing, is that when is it that you react badly to something? Is it when something goes wrong, or is it when something goes right? You don't get your own way, someone cuts you off in traffic. Most people know what it is that triggers them to get angry and upset. And you know the type of negative emotion that's going to pull your energy down and cause all sorts of problems for you, right? So that's not just going to be something that's happening in the moment. It might be have something that gains momentum and lasts for a couple of hours, which ruins your whole day and kills your productivity. It has all sorts of compounding effects there to you. So you've got to learn to identify what it is that's triggering you and what emotions you're feeling when that actually happens. So most of the time, when people are feeling triggered about something, what's triggering them is a lack of control. So I thought something was going to go this way, but it suddenly went that way. I'm so frustrated when I'm sitting here with video editing software and I'm trying to do something and I get frustrated with it and I fucking like that. It's because it's not doing what I want it to do. But the program's not designed to do what I want it to do. It's designed to do what it does. So I have to get in line with that. And that's where I'm feeling that level of frustration. So what is it for you that's causing frustration in your life? And so what I would say is one really super practical thing that you can do. All of that positive affirmation stuff is really important. You need to do that. That has to be part of your day. But I also believe that this needs to be part of your day at some point as well. You need to take some time for some self-introspection where you're looking inwards at yourself. And the way to overcome the challenges that you face are to write down all of the things that can go wrong. And then you need to look at the second, third, fourth, and fifth order effects of that. And then try and figure out the combination of things that can go wrong. So if I've got a business where I have inventory and the orders come in and suddenly people are paying for something and I've got no stock sitting on the shelf and there's a 6-week wait for something like that, that's going to be very frustrating for me. Now I've got to go down the process of refunding. I've got to call the clients. I've got to do all sorts of things there. So if that happens to you, if that's like something that goes wrong in your business and that happens more often than not, what are you doing to negate it? And if there's 10 different things that can go wrong in your business, what are the second, third, fourth, and fifth order effects down the line from that are going to cause you problems? And what is it that you can do to negate it? So you can actually play out all of these things like an athlete in their mind. So think of a rugby league game. So the team goes in and they score a try, but they score in the corner. And the guy's now got to get the kicking tee and he gets the ball and he's almost on the sideline, right? Then he puts the ball on the kicking tee and then he's ready to go. He takes a couple of steps back. He looks up at the goalpost. He looks down at the ball. He looks up at the goalpost, down at the ball. And then he does some sort of funny dancing jig and then he runs along and he goes kick and the ball goes sailing right over the center of the black dots 80 meters away. And it's just the most incredible kick ever. So think about the process that athlete's going through in his mind when he's putting the ball on the kicking tee. When he's putting it there, he's done that literally thousands of times. If he's playing first grade football, he's done that thousands of times. Ever since he was a little boy, he was practicing kicking the winning goal for the grand final in the NRL. And he's put the ball there, and in his mind, he's visualizing how he's going to strike the ball and where the ball's going to go and what it looks like and the arc and the trajectory of the ball based on where he is. You know, he's kicked it 400 times in the last 2 months from that part of the sideline because he's the team's kicker and he knows exactly what he's doing, how it works. That in his mind, he's seeing it go over. So in business, if you can see all the things that go wrong, if you can visualize them in your mind's eye and take the time not to meditate on those things, but to visualize those things, because you don't want to be attracting those things into your life, right? So you don't want to be meditating on that and pulling that negative energy to you, but you want to visualize that by writing down. You might want to do this with your team, where here's what can go wrong and here's how we're going to handle it when it goes wrong. Pilots live and die by checklists. If something goes wrong, they straight away pull the checklist out and turn to the page of whatever's going wrong, and they figure out, oh, engine 2's out. What do I need to do? Well, move this switch, move this lever, like this, do that. And they do that so they don't have to think about what to actually do, because you can't memorize that, because your emotions are like, oh my God, the engine quit. What are we going to do? We're going to crash. We're going to die. Well, that's a natural human reaction to something going wrong. But what you want to do is you want to suppress all of that by having the checklist, which gets you to do something methodical and to get yourself under control and get the emergency under control. And if you don't have a system in your business or in your life to figure out those second, third, fourth, and fifth order effects. So if I do this, what are the next 2 things that might happen? If I do that, then what are the next 3 things that can happen? And this is one of those games that you can play with yourself infinitum. It can go on forever. But if you just look at it in your business and be specific to the things that can go wrong in your business, then you'll find that there's only 2 or 3 effects that can actually happen. Well, if we've sold stock that we don't have in inventory because the website hadn't been updated for whatever reason, all that means is we're going to have to give the customer a refund or hold the money from the customer until that comes and then send it to them. But we're going to call them and tell them there's a delay. They're good. Okay, cool. We'll keep their money. We'll wait for the stuff to come, and then we're going to do something to make it better for them. We're going to give them a freebie. We're going to do something to kind of enhance that. Thanks for your patience with us, whatever it might be, to retain them as a customer. So there's a series of actions that you go through if the worst case scenario happens for you, but it really only has two magnitudes of effect. And then if you did finally get them to stock 2 or 3 weeks later and you did something nice for them as well in the process, why not give them a call to amplify that? hi, how you doing? So sorry about that. I hope everything's gone okay. I can see you've received a delivery. A little bit of customer love on the back end of it there to solve that problem. Let me know, did you want to place an order for the next one, or are you good now? Whatever it is, right? You're doing some personalized service there. So in business, when shit goes wrong, and shit goes wrong all the time, if you're not prepared for that, you might self-sabotage, and you need to get out of your own way. And that's why I kind of put there as a graphic and a topic of conversation there. What do you think, Laura? Do you go to those sort of lengths with this?
Well, it's funny. I'm listening and I'm going, maybe this is like the female and the male version.
It is, yeah, right. Two different versions.
I'm more of a glass full than empty, maybe, person. But I definitely will visualize. I do all that. It's wonderful. But I always look at the structure in what I want to go right.
Well, if there's pre-planned actions to what goes wrong, right?
Yeah,
so,
I like that. I like that idea. I don't know if I will adopt it, but hey, if it's working, then why don't you trial and error? Trial and error in business is great, but I always sort of go this way, and then if something doesn't happen in its entirety, I always have that other person in my business that I can talk about it. I think bashboarding on someone who's got a like-minded, really great business mind is wonderful. And so if you can talk about it to someone else, it's kind of like, if you can go back and forth with the words and the ideas, then you can get an amazing solution to the problem that you might not have found if you just stuck in your head. So talking to someone who's got experience and expertise can really create a different solution.
So what I'm saying is to do that before that happens. And the reason I say that is because of all the startups I've worked with, when, one or two things go wrong, there's these cascading effects in their emotions that cause them to self-sabotage with, it's too hard. This is never going to work. They throw up their hands and they're all angry and storming around and cranky and stuff like that. And what is it that you're angry and cranky about? You're out of control. You've lost control of your emotions because whatever it is that you're trying to do is not going the way that you want it to go. So before you get to that point, what I'd suggest is what you said, is have a conversation with your trusted partners, your advisors, and say to them, hey, what would you do in this circumstance? I was thinking about handling it this way. Can you give me some objective views of how you think it should run and why it should run that way? Because what I'm looking to do is to put a system in place of what you can do. There's a bunch of businesses out there that will do. So one guy that I worked with for a little while, he worked for the FBI. So he was a copper in America, and he worked in their aviation bureau and stuff. And part of what he did when an officer needed to get somewhere, right? So he'd figure out, so where are you? Where are our assets? Here's how you get to the airport. Here's the plane you're getting on. Off you go. And so he would coordinate all of those things. So part of what he had to do was, what happens if one of those planes has a stack? And so his role was in crisis management. And when you think of that, you would have heard of this before, right? You've probably seen a movie or a TV show about crisis management. I was watching something the other day, and there was like a plane crash. Yeah. It was a movie. It was a Gerard Butler movie. It was just terrible, right? The plane, Gerard Butler's the pilot, and something goes wrong with the plane, and they're going to go in the ocean, everyone was going to die, and then he looks up and, oh my God, suddenly they can look, there's a road, we can land on the road, and they end up in this island in the Philippines where there's all these bad dudes trying to kill them and stuff like that. It's just such a shit story. But I watched it for about half an hour and I turned it off. But on the front end of it, the plane crashes and the airline has a crisis manager come in. Okay, this is what you say to the media. This is what I need you to do. This is how you talk to that reporter. Make sure when that reporter gets in there, this is what you say. So the crisis manager's got everything squared away, and the management of the airline are like, okay, this is the worst case scenario. What do we do? We enact our plan. This is how we go. So do you have a crisis management plan for yourself in your business? I think that's a way to stop yourself from self-sabotaging, and a really good way to actually be in the world as well.
I like it. So we now all see the Rob side to the crash hat helmet and the Laura side to the let's see the light.
You got the warm, fluffy side that nothing's ever going to go wrong. The glass is always half full, baby.
Everyone, are you half full or half empty? Tell us in the comments below. Now, Rob, is there a last topic that we're going to chat about before we end the show today?
That was the end of it. I was just going to ask you if you had any final closing remarks or any thoughts that you wanted to share.
Yes, I just say if you're thinking about starting a business, don't listen to the naysaying in your own head. Just if you're excited about it, listen to your heart, dive in and figure it out. You can always ask questions to God, the universe. Ask the right questions. Say, how did I become a successful entrepreneur? And wait until the universe or God brings it to you. Let me promise you, ask better questions and you'll receive the answers.
Yeah, I think I would amplify that by saying you must ask questions. You must ask questions and you must put yourself in the future tense when you're asking the universe or in prayer to whomever you're sharing that with. How did I actually become successful doing that? What happened to me when I now that I'm a successful X, and you insert what X is, now that I'm successful in X, what is it that I did to get there? And when you put that out there, that's going to come to you. Those things are going to come to you. Those ideas are going to come to you. You're going to have to figure out how to hire staff, how to manage books, how to do all these things. And those skills will be acquired on your journey. It's part of the journey. And that's actually part of the fun of starting a business and being an entrepreneur.
Have fun.
That's it. That's the primary goal. Laura, thank you so much for spending some time with me here on The Unspoken Truth. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're still here with us, thank you so much for your comments and for your contributions. April, thanks so much. We'll reach out to you if you want to come on the show and have some fun with us. We'd love to have you and to host you as well. Don't forget, we're available as a podcast on your favorite podcasting app. And come on over to Twitter, to Telegram, and to Rumble. You can find all the links down below. And don't forget to reach out and connect with Laura at the Inspire Greatness community as well. All right, that wraps it up for the show today. Let's get out of here. I'll see you next time, Laura. It's bye for now.
Bye.